Thanks for watching.
Hey everyone, it's been 8 months. Me and my foster family decided to move to Sydney. This is my crib, what my acting money got me. So my family live here with me in this crib. This is the storage area. And then down here is the games area, basically pool table, chill area. This way is my bedroom. The main bedroom is my bedroom. And then the walk-in closet out here. Downstairs, this is my sister's room. My brother, sister. This is the computer basically. And then in here is my mum's room, my mum and my dad's room. This is the bathroom. And then over here is my other sister's room. Over here is my brother's room. Heaps of rooms, I know. With this spec. With my acting money, I buy this shit. I'm rich dude. This is chill area and balcony in Sydney. And yeah, and I'll show you downstairs now. Here is the out front, as you can see. And then in here is a chill area, basically. Chill area out back. And then another storage area, the kitchen. The library. Dinner table. Another kitchen. I got 2 kitchens, just to be sure. And then the storage area. And then the lounge room. And then another chill area. So yeah, I'm basically rich. I have 2 kitchens. Because why not, dude? So yeah, I'm basically rich. Me and my family, we live here. Well, my foster family anyway. My actual family ditched me. So yeah, they abandoned me pretty much. So, I have my foster family now. We moved to Sydney. So yeah, my first day at high school starts tomorrow. No, starts on Monday, I mean. Today is Saturday, and then Sunday, and then Monday. Back to school. Oh, I can't believe it, I'm in Sydney, Australia. Hell yeah, dude. It's what you do.
With a mouth and powers you may not have known that he had. Now you may think you know all there is to know about this fan favorite, and maybe you do, but perhaps you hadn't heard some of these, and that's what we're here for. I'm Sasha, and these are the top 10 superpowers you didn't know Deadpool had. With the already mentioned caveat, you may of course know some of these. Number 10, healing tied to mental state. Now most everyone knows about Deadpool's enhanced healing factor, and how he can heal from pretty much anything. He's been decapitated, he's been turned to a puddle of goo, and then he had to drink cable, it was a whole thing. But did you know that how effective his healing factor is tied to his mental state? So he heals faster and more well-handedly when he is not only conscious, because then there is some intent behind the power, but if he is unconscious or depressed, then it can be much slower. fine than just quirky fourth wall breaks. His first series by Joe Kelly, the one that began to define him and move him away from the Deathstroke ripoff he began as under Liefeld, actually had a lot of angst and sad Deadpool sitting in the shower at the leg. Deadpool has range.
Number 9. Immunity to vampire bites and other vulnerabilities. So, because of the enzymes that altered Blade, he now has immunity to vampire bites. This more or less makes him the ideal candidate for being a vampire hunter, considering the biggest risk is turning into a vampire yourself. Blade has a natural affinity for disabling one of a vampire's greatest assets. Blade is also immune to the effects of religious icons like crucifixes, which tend to leave most vampires powerless. Speaking of Blade resistances,
Number 8. He is in peak human condition. Now, thanks to years of intense training with Captain America, Sam is now considered to be at the peak of human condition. His strength is nothing to joke about, as he is able to send crossbones flying with a single force kick. He was able to break steel chains that tied him to a tank, and he was able to bend metal bars with his bare hands. He is also strong enough to lift at least twice his body weight and can press lift 480 pounds. And don't even get me started on his physical endurance. He continued to function in spite of getting stabbed in the chest by Zamo's sword, and continued to function after being set on fire from one of AIM's agent's flamethrowers while ripping his costume. Man, I wish I was like that. I have trouble even walking up a flight of stairs. Number 7. Bo Jutsu. When Gambit first made his appearance in Uncanny X-Men Volume 1, Issue 266, he actually was not seen using his famous playing cards. Instead, we met Gambit with metal spikes in hand, almost like darts. Like many of his fellow mutants, first appearances can be deceiving, and many of the X-Men needed some time to evolve and settle before becoming the iconic characters we know them as today. I mean, look at how much Beast has changed from his first appearance. And in fact, while we've come to know Gambit for his explosive playing cards, he is also skilled with weapons as well, specifically his bow staff. His accuracy both with his staff and anything he chooses to turn into a projectile is impressive. He rarely misses his targets and even is accurate and skilled enough to use his staff to deflect bullets, and powerful enough to destroy a danger room boss with one swift blow of his staff. Number 6. Improvisation and acting. Many may think it would be easy to be villain Raven Darkholme. All you have to do to beat the good guys, or when you're being good, the bad guys, is shapeshift into someone else, and everything is pretty much almost done for you. But what people often forget is Mystique does not gain the memories of those she changes into. So her trickery and shapeshifting is more of an art than you think. Beyond looking like someone, she often has to play the role of the person she is imitating well enough to convince those around her. Sometimes people who know that target intimately. And she's managed to successfully pull this off on multiple occasions, even when the person she's imitating is like a genius scientist, or even if she's convincing the romantic partners of those she imitates in the bedroom as well. Phantom X seemed pretty convinced when she slept with him while under the guise of Psylocke, so... Number 5. Earth 44145. This universe is part of the spin-off The Spider-Verse event, this one called Edge of Spider-Geddon. On this Earth, Norman Osborn is Spider-Man, and with 6 arms. Norman found a way to acquire the powers of Spider-Man. Sense, the strength, the poor personal life. This Norman was as power-hungry as the other iterations, and actually constructed a cosmic cube. And when Harry managed to destroy it, this only gave Norman access to the web of life and destiny, and hence the multiverse and the spider totems. His costume is very cool, really playing up the literal arachnid look, which would be very menacing in the dark indeed. All those extra eyes.
Number 4. Telepathic resistance. Black Panther is insanely disciplined, in full control of both body and mind. This has obvious effects, making him one of the best fighters in the world, but also seems to give him some serious protection from telepathy. We've seen him resist telepaths a few times. In Cable number 54, Cable's strong telepathy could barely notice him hiding in the trees, and in Original Sin number 4, Emma Frost described his mind as, quote, a bear trap wrapped in barbed wire that someone set on fire. So maybe don't try reading his mind.
Number 3. Alexander Luthor, Mazaz. We need to go to the alternate universe of Earth 3 for this number. On this Earth, we have a topsy-turvy world where the heroes are the villains and the villains are the heroes. The Justice League is instead the crime syndicate, and they have to deal with the likes of Alexander Luthor. Alexander Luthor in modern continuity had gained the ability to absorb the powers of others. He would use it to take powers from the villainous syndicate, and then he would use them in battle to take them down. He would become known as Mazaz after absorbing the powers of Captain Marvel, aka Shazam. This is because Mazaz is just Shazam backwards, which is what Shazam goes by in this universe. That's topsy-turvy. Lex had amassed quite an arsenal of powers, such as Johnny Quicks and Deathstorms. He was a force to be reckoned with, but all did not end well for him. At least not in the end of the New 52. Number 2 is one we have heard of many superheroes having, but haven't really thought about Spider-Man having it, and it is super speed. Yes, he has great agility and spidey senses, so he looks fast, but he's been known to outrace speeding in cars, or travel the entire length of Manhattan in 10 minutes. 10 minutes! That's like going over 100 miles per hour or something like that. He has been so fast sometimes that he is like a blur. He'll like come into a room, pick out a bunch of people, and no one even sees him. So, I don't know. Maybe the Flash and him should like exchange numbers. Hang out sometime. Number 1, telepathic resistance. Similar to how his mental suppression works, Wolverine also has a wall of armor in his mind when it comes to psychic attacks. Originally in the comics, this was explained as him having level 9 psi fields installed by Professor Xavier. But over time, his ability to shield himself from psychic damage began to become even greater, as seen in the 2003 Wolverine volume issue 46. Emma is even ready to disregard the shields that Xavier put inside Logan's mind, declaring that she could more than handle them as a level 10 telepath. However, later, she seems unable to prevent Wolverine from charging Scott in X-Men Original Sin, and Logan shares that his psychic scar tissue is to thank for that. His healing factor has helped him to build up a resistance after previous attacks on his mind. So the more you try to psychically attack him, the stronger he will become against psychic attacks, apparently. Pretty powerful considering that he's mostly a strength-based mutant. Thank you so much for watching, Nerd Squad. I hope through exploring some of Wolverine's long comic book history with me, you also found out about some powers you didn't know he had, or in some cases, that he once had. Wolverine truly has almost done everything. Are there any superpowers of Wolverine's that you feel are often not talked about that we missed? If you could have any of Wolverine's superpowers, which would you want? What is your favorite of his superpowers? Redcon as his cousin? And that's all the time we have for comments today. Want a chance to have your comments? You, as always, to stay nerdy, YouTube. Strongest on the team. But he's not just all muscle. Colossus has a lot of hidden abilities and skills that you may not know about. So today we are counting down the top 10 superpowers you didn't know Colossus had. Let's get to it. And at number 10, he is self-sustaining. Peter's mutant ability allows for him to transform his body into a steel-like substance, often referred to as organic steel, giving him superhuman strength, stamina, endurance ability. That we all know. But did you know that this organic steel is self-sustaining? When in this form, he does not require any food or water or nutrients, since his internal organs are replaced with steel. He also doesn't produce waste, which should be a given. Although it's worth noting that he is only self-sustaining in this form for extended periods of time.
I bought me a Glock and a baseball bat. Why not? I'm going to show you in my room in the chest. What's in there? I'm going to show you. My room. My room. Where's my room? Where's the master bedroom? Here. Master bedroom. Money and Glocks and Uzis, basically, and knives and baseball bats. So yeah, pretty much, you know, I got everything pretty much. I'm ready, just in case, if I need to shoot someone. Or hit someone with a baseball bat even. So yeah, I'm basically ready for anyone to, you know, break inside my crib. Or ops. Like people might call me whacking, so I got the gun, I got the Glock and baseball bat ready. From now on, I'm gonna take it everywhere I go. Even that school dude. Because I don't want to be caught whacking. So, yeah, fuck that. I want to be, you know, that teenager that never got shot.
He can consciously maintain
You know what I
that
mean?
form. In other words, if he's ever knocked unconscious, he'll revert back to his human form. He also does not need to breathe when in this form, meaning he can travel underwater or be in harsh environments as long as he maintains the form. Number 9, invulnerable to telepathy. So Deadpool's healing factor actually renders him extremely resistant to telepathy. That's because the neurons in his head are in a constant state of flux, with his dying cells being rejuvenated at an accelerated rate. However, this is a sometimes who's writing Deadpool ability, meaning that the level of resistance can vary. Still, even if more graceful. Fun fact. His hits would also be more powerful using this technique, as he has a supercharged metabolism that makes his strikes land with more force. Nick Fury even said the Gambit was one of the best hand-to-hand fighters he had ever seen. Number 5, shapeshift into animals. Not only can Mystique shapeshift into other beings, but once her power level was increased in the comic, she also found it possible to shapeshift beyond humanoids. She could give herself tentacles, turn into animals, give herself wings, and even once turn into a sheet of paper in order to survive an explosion. Making oneself almost two-dimensional and as flat as a sheet of paper is pretty impressive. Though thankfully, that sheet of paper didn't catch fire in the explosion. I feel like, there'd be a risk of that. Well, in the comics, she did not possess this level of shape-shifting abilities immediately. In the X-Men Evolution animated series, she started off being at this level with her powers. Mystique has even used her shape-shift abilities to make internal changes to her body, shifting vital organs around to protect them from getting damage from injuries. Number 4, Red Goblin. Norman Osborn bonded with the Carnage symbiote, and because of his exposure to the Goblin serum, it created a very different bond. Indeed, he was able to control the symbiote's need to just kill indiscriminately, and eventually the symbiote would create basically a red-green goblin outfit, but with a tail and fire. Red Goblin would use the symbiote to create his glider and pumpkin bombs, but made of Carnage. Plus, of course, he had all the shape-shifting and molecular abilities that come with being bonded to a symbiote. And some would say, most importantly, he was lacking weaknesses. He was immune to the traditional weaknesses of fire and sound, but still couldn't be touched by anti-venom. This was because of the Goblin serum he had been given. Of course, at this point, he had been given an anti-Goblin serum, but being bonded flushed that from his system.
Number 3, hypercosmic awareness. After being exposed to the mind of Galactus, T'Challa started having visions both while awake and sleeping. He began to be able to perceive the universe on the cosmic scale, similar to how Galactus sees it. He could see the future and sense the cage around the Marvel Universe, as well as the others outside of it. But this wasn't the only time he saw things he shouldn't.
And number 2, we have Firestorm Matrix. Again, on Earth 3, Alexander Luthor gained access to the Firestorm Matrix, a power normally associated with the hero Firestorm. So he gained this ability by taking it from Firestorm, which means anything Firestorm could do, he can do, including getting rid of that pesky need to eat and drink. This is separate from our last number because having Firestorm's abilities is a whole other ballpark. So Firestorm can rearrange molecular or particle structures of any substance, then convert them into pretty much anything you can think of. Just something else. And Alexander didn't even have to get fused into 2 people to make this happen. He can create nuclear fusion, hold it in his hands. That's incredible. Alexander stood a chance if he hadn't fallen in with Superwoman, who is not at this point Diana, but Lois Lane. I'm telling you, Lois and Lex, it's a thing. At number 1, we have a weird superpower with spider stingers. It happens in the other storyline where he gets retractable razor-sharp stingers in his arms. They're hard like bone and they're coated in this venom that can cause temporary paralysis or even death. So it gets a little darker, and I would love to see this in a Spider-Man movie coming up. Fingers crossed? So there you have it. Let me know your favorite, not so well-known Spider-Man superpower in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, I'm Kat Joby with Top 10 Nerd. Thanks for talking about weird and spectacular. Blip, blip. 74. He went from being a grumpy beast-like mutant to a grumpy, more handsome and refined mutant. Some of his change even being influenced by his film version as Hugh Jackman took on the role, thereby making Logan more of a ladies' man, less of the unlikable grump, though I think Logan will pretty much always be grumpy. Today we're going to be following the evolution of Wolverine not just as a character, but as a mutant and superhero as we count down the top 10 superpowers you didn't know Wolverine had. Be sure to stick around till the end of this video where I will have some bonus also coming your way. Alright, let's get counting. Number 10, Symbiosis. We learn in the series Web of Venom, Venom, that Wolverine was actually one of the first mutants to ever merge with a symbiote. He ends up linking his mind with the symbiote who recalls memories of Nick Fury torturing it, causing them to attack Fury. Eventually, the symbiote would be separated from Wolverine, though it would later speak its first words, seemingly as a result of their time together, and would save Logan's life while merged with another being. In the older Spider-Man game from 2008, Spider-Man Web of Shadows, it was also revealed that Wolverine was able to achieve symbiosis, inciting a fight between the player as Spider-Man and this version of Wolverine, merged with one of the symbiotes, Venom Wolverine. Moving on to number 9, his body is made of the third strongest metal. While having a body created out of the third strongest metal in the universe doesn't really seem like something to brag about, it is still impressive nonetheless. Colossus's organic steel is third to vibranium and adamantium in terms of durability. While there has been a wee bit of retconning over the years considering what metal is actually the strongest, it's generally agreed upon that adamantium is the strongest, although Uru is in another precious class in itself. One thing we do know for sure is that Colossus's body has been shown to be stronger than everything but vibranium and adamantium. While those two can damage Colossus, a great amount of strength is required to actually cut through his body, meaning characters like Wolverine would have a tough time with his claws damaging the hero. Although, once upon a time, the Demon Sim used Logan's dismembered claws to puncture through Peter's body. It's a whole other thing, though. And as seen in the crossover X-Men Spider-Man issue 4, he is also vulnerable to the anti-metal Antarctic vibranium. His body will actually shift to human form instinctively when he is faced with a weapon made from that material.
Number 8, Mimicry, from the Ultimate Verse. So we're going over to the Ultimate Verse for this one, where characters had different abilities and the like, just cuz, fresh slate, etc. The Ultimate Universe was a comic line started by Marvel in order to create a jumping on point for new readers, who may be intimidated by the huge backlog of Marvel canon. It would, of course, eventually develop a large backlog of its own, and be done in by some large, questionable events. Many fans will point to the very gory Ultimatum as the turning point. The Deadpool of the Ultimate Verse was a cyborg who could mimic people's appearances and voices, but not powers. So close, but no life model decoy. Still, you could pass as another person like that for a while, if no harrowing situation came up, and they weren't a person who just used their powers willy-nilly.
Number 7, slowed aging. So, like vampires, Blade also has a much longer lifespan due to his slowed aging. During the time he's lived on Earth, no change in his appearance has ever been noted, which is good because I too fear the curse of a receding hairline. Like Blade. Where's my mom got eaten by a vampire?
Number 6, he is a aerialist master. It's very well known that Sam is an excellent flyer. I mean, his superhero name is the Falcon, so you kind of hope so, right? Now, thanks to many years of experimentation with his wings, he has mastered the art of flying and fighting in the air. So much so that he is considered one of the best aerial fighters in the Marvel world, exceeding the skills of other flyers such as Iron Man and Ms. Marvel.
Number 5, Hypnotic Charm. Have you ever wondered why so many ladies have the hots for Gambit? Well, it could be because of this subtle and sometimes lesser known ability. Remy is charming just on his own, but he also possesses a power known as Hypnotic Charm. This power allows him to have slight control over another being through the power of suggestion. Basically like Cajun Jedi mind tricks. He can suggest something to you that you might be inclined to follow through with or agree with him on. Some have even suggested that he may have used his influence to make Rogue fall for him. However, this power is not particularly strong, so it is unlikely that this theory is true, and more likely that the two just fell in love organically. Because as soon as someone becomes aware of this power, it ceases to work on them any longer. And it's likely that Rogue, after all this time, would both know about Remy's hypnotic and natural charms. Number 4, Super Strength. What some people might not think about is the fact that Mystique has been shown to shapeshift on a molecular level. What does this mean for her abilities? It means that she can adjust her strength levels pretty much as she sees fit, and that when she appears to have more muscle, it's not just for show. She can actually use that muscle. Because of this, we have seen Mystique both while disguised and while not disguised do all sorts of crazy things. She once caught a kick from Sabretooth and tossed him through a window like a rag doll, and she has killed people with one punch. And she even one time broke Forge's cybernetic leg with a single kick. Ouch.
Number 3, Ultimate Universe. Actual Goblin. Time to hop over to the 60 and 10, the Ultimate Verse. This universe began at the start of the new millennium as a jumping on point for new readers, and as a chance for characters to be revamped with new backstories. The idea was that Marvel Comics were too intimidating and they needed to make a new entry point. The Green Goblin in this universe, Norman Osborn again, would actually be responsible for creating both Peter Parker's Spider-Man and Miles Morales'. He was trying to create a super
Oh yeah,
soldier
that's
serum,
right.
which when he saw
My
the effect
dad
it had on
died
Peter
and
by
my mum
combining his
kicked
and
me
his
out.
DNA, he thought that would have an even more desirable
yeah.
effect on him. But instead
My
of making
parents
him the best
didn't
he
ditch
could
me.
be, like
My
Captain
dad
America,
ditched.
he was
My
instead
mum ditched
transformed
me.
into a giant
Not my
goblin,
dad,
just
my
a
mum.
monster, but with super
So,
strength and the
yeah.
ability to take great leaps
I'm
in
in
a
the
single
foster
bound.
home
But that
now.
was not all.
Number 2, Premonitions. After being
It
exposed
wasn't
to
a
a metal
good
of pure
one.
vibranium thanks to the evil Jakara, T'Challa began having
Mom, if
premonitions
you're
of
watching
events
this
that had not yet
documentary,
occurred. He realized that he
thank
gained some sort of
you for
clairvoyance,
kicking me
even
out.
able to identify drawings
You
on
can now
cards
look at
while
me,
blindfolded, and he knew when his aides were in danger. However,
an
just a
actor
few
and I'm
issues later,
famous.
this was retcon /
And I'm in
re-explained
Australia
as a
with my
vibranium
good
metal
wife.
simply heightening his
Well,
already heightened
you
senses,
live in
cutting his
America and
crisis
you're
points,
poor.
which is kind of stupid, but it's fine with me
Thank
because it
you,
would have been
Mom.
ridiculous if he also had clairvoyance.
And at number 1, we have Apex Lex, the latest at the time of this
Thank
recording
you so
iteration of
much,
Lex,
Mom,
part of the
if
Year
you're
of the
watching
Villain
this
and Time Perpetua
documentary.
and the Dark Multiverse and all of that fine stuff.
Right,
This Lex
I
decided
mean
that he
it.
fell in line with Perpetua's philosophy of the
Thank
idea that
you.
villains were the ultimate evolution, and as such, turned himself into the ultimate villain. But to do this, he could no longer be purely human, and instead fused himself with Martian DNA, turning him into something else, a creature with powers. Now this has proven to be controversial for some, which is why it is at our number 1 spot. Some feel that this is not something that Lex would ever have done, while others feel that based on the circumstances of the story, it makes sense. Lex has gone around killing all the other Lexes from the multiverse. It's been very The One, or any other sci-fi stories do that plot. So what do you think of Apex Lex? Does it make you laugh as much as me to say it? I'm laughing on the inside. Let me know down below. So those were 10 superpowers that you didn't know Lex Luthor had. Do you know about all of these? Did I miss some? Let me know down below.
Let's have a
I'm
join.
Sasha, and thanks so much for watching Top 10 Nerd. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe and hit the bell notifications so that you never miss a vid. And I'll see you again soon.
Enough to be an elderly man who remembered the X-Men and was known as the Witness. If he was actually the Witness, that is. That theory has really never been fully confirmed or denied. Number 3, healing factor. While her healing factor isn't super powerful, it still exists. Let's not forget that Mystique's mutant powers allow her to change appearance, changing her body. By extension, she can also use the same power to heal non-lethal wounds by closing them up. This ability does require a good amount of focus and energy on Mystique's part, however, which is why the idea of healing something more serious is so difficult. The injury itself would take energy and focus away from her. It has been stated before in the comics, but very rarely, leaving many to ponder on if her healing factor is really a thing, as it's not really super consistent. But for those who doubt, I'll remind you that Mystique is...
Let's go on to Xbox. Why not? Let's head to my bedroom, get the VR, and go on to Xbox. Go onto my server. Fuck Lifeboat. I hate Lifeboat. Go my server. Fuck Lifeboat. Let's head down. Oh yeah, did I close the doors to the balcony? Hopefully I did. Please tell me I did. Nope, not there. Where's the balcony again? Down here, was it? No. Was it down here? Ah, okay. Close. Okay, the door is closed, so yeah. Let's head down to the VR and play my server. Let's head to the lounge room. Okay, so here. No. Okay. Xbox, go into my server. Connect. Let's do this thing. Let's hold it, I guess. Let's do this fucking thing.
Pretty old, and she's fine. He uses
Here
it on
we are.
Lois so they can have a super-powered date. Romantic? Lex manages to get his hands on some and uses it to engage in a
Let's have
fight
a
with
joint.
Superman, who is dying, by the way. But then he is suddenly overwhelmed by all that he can see while having Clark's abilities, and has this epiphany about just why Clark does what he does and why he is the way he is. But then the powers fade, and Clark dies heroically and dramatically, leaving Lex a lot sadder and a little wiser, and 100% ready to make a Superman clone.
At number 7, we have camouflage/invisibility. Another Spider-Man, Miles this time, not Peter, similarly was bitten by a radioactive spider, but has a slightly different power set than Peter on account of his spider being infused with this enhanced version of the Oz formula. One of the drastically different ones is his ability to organically camouflage himself. And we're talking everything. His body, his clothing, he just naturally blends into his surroundings at a moment's notice, essentially becoming invisible. This is such a great ability in a fight. I mean, you hit them, you become invisible, you walk over to the side, boom, hit them again. It's great. Number 6, Phoenix Force. During the series Astonishing Spider-Man and Wolverine, Logan finds himself teamed up with Peter Parker Parker as the two are forced to involuntarily ping-pong around time together. One of their adventures sees them go up against a planet that appears to be Dr. Doom. Wolverine gets his hands on the Phoenix gun and sacrifices himself to use it to blast apart planet Doom. He is later resurrected and ends up attracting
Some stealth and surveillance and espionage type missions, as it allows for the other members of his team to know exactly what they're going up against ahead of time.
Number 1. Toxic Conversion. During Gambit's run as Apocalypse's Horseman of Death, Gambit had this power. He agreed to be one of Apocalypse's horsemen, believing that Apocalypse would be the salvation of the mutants, and that if Apocalypse turned on them, that Gambit would be able to stop him. Fortunately, didn't quite work out as Remy had hoped, and he ended up actually attacking his former teammates, the X-Men. As a result of this transformation, he gained the power to transform air into deadly poison, even once threatening to do so to his own master, Apocalypse, after regaining his sense of self and remembering who he truly was. Thanks for watching, Nerd Squad. Are there any powers you feel like we left out? What are some of his powers that you think make Gambit super, super cool? How do you feel about the fact that Gambit's solo movie project involving Channing Tatum was canceled? Let us know in the comments below. I personally was looking forward to hearing what a Cajun Channing Tatum would sound like, but I also feel like Gambit is a really hard one to cast. I'm not convinced anyone would be quite right for that role. And speaking of comments, it's time to turn to some comments from one of our latest videos, the Black Widow trailer explained. American Paiza comments, I can't recall a time when you guys have explained a trailer. I like this edition. Thank you. I think we have done it before, but it was like a while ago. Like a while. I remember doing another one, maybe for Avengers Endgame. You can look that up. Michael Hurtlandy says, love the second analysis of the trailer and the bloopers. The loading fist makes sense if wearing some tech like Crossbones, but yeah, looks a bit ridiculous. Keep up the great work. True. I think Crossbones is the only one who would actually be doing something when loading his fist for this reason, but I mean, I kind of love ridiculous little things in fight choreo like that. If you work hard enough to figure out why your character might have those weird, like, fight mannerisms, they can look as badass as they do silly. Thanks for commenting. And that's all the time we have for comments today. If you want a chance to have your thoughts featured in a future video, be sure to comment below. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host, Amanda McKnight, reminding you to stay nerdy, YouTube. Let me tell you about some Gambit facts. I'll tell you what. I'm dying, it's fine. Before coming to the X-Man, and is the X-Man.
Just one. There's only one of them. One X-Man.
It's a lonely crew. Royal Flush. Gotta be lucky to draw those cards. Maybe he also has luck powers. By simply being quick enough to catch them, and often throw them back at the people that aim them at him. Take that. I don't want that. It's like a game of hot potato. Number 7, Bojutsu. Wait, Bojutsu? Bojutsu? I think it's supposed to be Bojutsu. I just spelled it wrong, so. Sorry, you gotta respell that properly. And powerful enough to destroy a My voice is still weird, man. It's weird. Is this chicken right way up? Yes. Excellent. And powerful enough to destroy a Danger Room bot with one swift blow of his staff. Blah. You're dead. It means that he is a French kickboxing master. He kicks people with his feet, hits them with his hands. And it's likely that Rogue, after all this time, would both know about Remy's hypnotic and natural charms. So probably won't work on her. His natural charm, however, I feel like that will work on Rogue. She's into it. His natural charm would work on anybody. Ugh. Nick Fury even said that Gambit was one of the best hand-to-hand fighters he had ever seen. There you go. He's not just gonna throw in stuff and hitting you with a staff. He can kick you, and it will hurt a lot too. So don't mess with Gambit. Professor X once likened trying to get into Remy's mind to trying to hold on to a bunch of snakes. Trying to say that on. Professor X won't let. Oh, snot. Let me into her mind, Gambit. Just let me in. And it's like, no, I don't think so. That theory has really never been fully confirmed or denied. I know they tried to mislead us and be like, probably wasn't him, but I don't believe it. I don't believe it, X-Men. It's all lies. The witness probably is Gambit. Don't try to trick me. And converting himself into energy waves. Ooh, energy waves. It's pretty cool. I wish I could be an energy wave. I want to be little microwaves. He agreed to be one of Apocalypse's horsemen, believing that he would be the salvation of the mutants. And I should say Apocalypse. Otherwise it sounds like it's like, I'll be the salvation. After regaining his sense of self and remembering who he truly was, Apocalypse was like, oh no.
Oh, shit.
pulling air deep into his lungs as he took in the surroundings. He was safe, but shaken. As is tradition for young children in Japan after a nightmare, he then chanted for Baku, the Dream Eater. According to legend, the Baku were created from the spare pieces of elephants, oxen, and tigers left over from when the gods had finished creating all other animals. Every time Naoki called for him, he never materialized, but the fact he had at least done so made him feel somewhat better. Still not enough to fall back to sleep. This time, however, was different. As he stared into the darkness of his ceiling above, he saw him. Baku had arrived. Baku bent forward from his high perch above and opened his mouth and nostrils unfathomably wide as he began to inhale the night air, and along with it, Naoki's nightmare. A week had passed, and Naoki had been sleeping much better. He was more alert at school, and could better enjoy the time with his friends after. Baku had served his purpose well, and by this time, should have moved on to assist another child with their night terrors. However, it appeared he was stuck. Something had gone wrong, and Baku was trapped with Naoki, and unfortunately, getting extremely hungry. Unbeknownst to Naoki, he was soon to be exposed to a series of horrible and unfortunate events. The first occurred the very next day at school when Naoki was asked by his teacher to go down into the school storeroom and retrieve a box of textbooks. He reluctantly agreed and made his way downstairs to the basement. He hated this place and found the box quickly so as to not spend any more time down there than necessary. As he neared the stairway, a large huntsman spider dropped from the ceiling and landed directly onto the box he was carrying. Terrified, Naoki dropped the box, and just as the spider leapt up at him, the lights went out. Naoki freaked out and ran upstairs screaming, his arms flailing in every direction as he tried to flick the spider off him. He returned to the classroom empty-handed and was chastised by the teacher for wasting time and acting like an infant. The next event occurred a few days later when Naoki was crossing a busy street on his way to school. A black cat was in the path of an old man cycling past him, which caused him to veer directly into the oncoming traffic and under the wheels of a delivery truck. Naoki witnessed the entire event and instantly went into a state of catatonic shock. Hours later, he awoke in a hospital alone and afraid. He screamed out for someone to come and help him, which he heard echo down the cold, empty hallways. His attempt to get out of bed was thwarted by a nurse who eventually entered the room and did her best to assure him that everything was okay. Eventually falling back to sleep, Naoki suffered from incredible nightmares caused by the trauma of the day's events. He awoke with a start and chanted for Baku to come to his aid, which he did within seconds. Baku immediately devoured the nightmares so quickly, in fact, that it left Naoki reeling, and he passed out from the intense feeling of dizziness and nausea.
Let's have another
Having
joint.
no idea how long he had been asleep, an odd sound akin to a baby's rattle woke him. It was coming from behind him, and he didn't want to look. Still, knowing nothing good was going to come of this, he couldn't help himself, and felt compelled to turn over. He closed his eyes and rolled his body over to face the doorway. His cold sweat made him shiver as he slowly opened his eyes and stared disbelieving at the young infant that stood in the doorway, its empty black ocular cavities drawing Naoki's attention. That was, until it put out its hand to reveal its own two bloody eyeballs. Naoki shut his eyes and screamed loud and long enough for the night shift nurse to come running. She settled him down once. This left him an incomplete shell of his former self, where he went on to live an empty,